That's a crazy statement. And if our teachers were that persuasive, then we would be number one in the nation in reading, writing, and arithmetic, and we're not.
I thought we were talking about our sex ed curriculum and how we approved it. And I didn't realize it was going to be cut and pasted. What I said was kids are impressionable, and I think that the first line of defense should be the parents.
This is the Trevor and Carey Show on Power Talk 96.7 and AM 1400.
I apologize for his remarks, and I will continue working for the inclusion and safety of all of our children and our staff.
Member Davis and I felt very strongly that we needed to be able to talk to the community and let the community know that this is not representative of our board.
Boy, just getting back from getting your daughter in college, and you got the fire in your face. Fresno Unified School District Board President Brooke Ashjian. Brooke, welcome in.
Thanks. Great to be here.
You got the kids all in gear?
Sadly enough, yeah. I mean, we did, and last one's gone, and it's a great feeling of accomplishment, but it's a sense of loss as well.
Oh, empty nester.
Yeah.
So you can walk around. You can leave the bedroom, go down, get a glass of milk naked.
Oh, I don't know about all that.
Oh, there's nobody around anymore, right? It's an empty house.
Well, if a tree falls in the woods, does it get hurt? I guess. I don't know.
Now, not just your own kids. How many other kids do you have to look after? How many are enrolled in Fresno Unified?
74,000. Approximately.
So you're not getting rid of kids for a while.
No.
Let's back this up here. It really kind of started with the Fresno Bee pregnancy series, Sex in the Valley that the Fresno Bee was doing.
Was it really that though? Was it really pregnancy? Because if it was, why did they bring in LGBT into the pregnancy test?
Okay, it was
the pregnancy survey.
I guess a sexuality series.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah, sexuality.
Let's say what
series.
it is.
Okay,
right.
I misspoke.
Yeah,
sexuality series, because they did delve into many other areas, and that's kind of where it got in with you. The Fresno Bee reporter Mackenzie Mays asked you a few questions. Reiterate to our Power Talk listeners who might have just been getting into this story late, your actual comments that got you in the so-called hot water. What were your comments, Brooke?
Well, I mean, she asked a variety of questions, and I gave maybe a 20-minute interview, and then she took 2 small lines out of that interview.
Do you regret the interview?
No, not at all.
Okay.
100%.
Would you say anything different today?
No.
Okay.
What I said is what I said. And what I said and what I meant was this, is that children that are young are very impressionable, and the first line of defense needs to be parents, caregivers, aunts, uncles, grandmothers that talk to them about the birds and the bees and the rights and the wrongs. And the place erupted.
Yeah.
I mean, the place erupted.
I think the Judeo-Christian line as well also got people a little wrinkled.
Well,
up.
the country was based upon Judeo-Christian principles.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I mean, and listen, I wasn't solely saying. I mean, there's some great principles in the Muslim religion, in the Buddhist religion, and all these different religions teach. They all teach good things. Whatever their religion is and whatever their morality is, the parents should be teaching that first. I'm not saying, hey, you're only going to teach about Judaism and Christianity and that's it. That's not even close to what I said.
Now, did anybody ever tell you when you become a trustee or become the board president that you must stop talking about your faith?
Let me just tell you something. That's never going to happen.
And I respect that.
Yeah, it's never going to happen.
I heard Trustee De La Cerda in here on Guillermo Moreno's show one night talking about how his Catholic faith is so strong. He's a devout Catholic, but it sounded to me like that just stays at Mass, that he doesn't bring it in. That was the point he was making, that I don't bring my faith in, and I guess neither should Mr. Ashjian.
Yeah, well, there's an old saying, Trevor, that says this. It says, 1 day at church, 6 days of fun. Odds of going to heaven are 6 to 1.
Say it again.
1 day at church, 6 days of fun. Odds of going to heaven are 6 to 1.
Mr. De La Cerda is calling for your resignation today. Did you know that was coming, or did that kind of surprise you?
First of all, he doesn't take my phone call, and he's very timid and wouldn't have a one-on-one conversation. But that doesn't surprise me. But where was his pen and to the editorial when we were in the midst of an FBI, which we still are in the midst of an FBI investigation. Where was his pin then? Why didn't he come out for that? Where was his pin when the cyber dust came up? Where was his pin when all of these things happened? He was voting with the previous superintendent and voting on command, right? Where was his voice? I'm happy that his laryngitis is gone and he's able to speak again.
Well,
I'm happy for him.
He spoke with the written word right here in an editorial in the Fresno Bee titled, "School Trustee Brooke Ashjian stepped down as president. I don't come to this decision lightly. I held out hope over time Ashjian would demonstrate the leadership traits that genuinely embrace our district's diversity, reflect professional integrity, encourage," what is this, among his peers, maintain focus on student achievement. Are you looking out for the district's diversity? How many different views do we have in the district?
We speak about 58 different languages, but let me just tell you something. First of all, I don't recognize the Fresno Bee as a legitimate news source.
Ooh.
Okay? I just don't. And I think that, quite frankly, I canceled my subscription a long time ago, and I just will not read that kind of stuff. So, that being said, he can say what he wants to say. Put my record just in the, let's do this. Let's do a little test. In the last 6 months, let's put my record up against his last 5 years. How about this last year? Whether you agree with me or not, 5 dual immersion schools opened. And one of them's in Northwest Fresno that I put together in 60 days. Dual immersion schools for our kids.
You and I argued about that.
Yeah, we did. How about Bullard Law Magnet Program rebooted? How about the medical school at Bullard High School and is going to be able to travel all the way through Fresno Unified, where we have a partnership with the Asimi family in their medical school. They're going to save 20 seats for Fresno Unified kids, not Bullard kids, Fresno Unified kids, guaranteed seats in their pharmacy college and their medical school. How about that? How about the most state-of-the-art diesel technology building and career technical education in the state of California? What about that? I mean, the things that the $1 million that I went and allocated and fought for African American kids so that we could figure out why the education gap is just dropping off the cliff with them. Because if we can figure out why those kids aren't learning and why they're not educating,
restorative justice is mine. We argued about that.
We're gonna come and the two are totally separate. But let me just tell you something. What works for those kids will work for every kid. It's learning. We just have to figure out how to learn. I mean, all of these things, the revamp of special education. You know, we had special education kids in separate classrooms off to the beaten path of a school. I said, no more. Special education kids will be included, and we will be inclusive of all of them. They will have as good or better than the facilities of everybody else. I'm the guy that fought for these things in the last 6-8 months just because I've been able to be board president. Let me tell you what some of my haters have done.
What?
You hear anything?
Crickets.
0. When is he going to start carrying water instead of consuming it? I should resign. How about he gets to work?
Well, Trustee De La Cerda talked about leadership traits. To me, whether I agree with anybody or not, leadership is standing up for principle, standing up for what one believes in, and not wavering over the current temperament of society. When he says, "I'm a devout Catholic, but I don't carry that into my," then what guides you? What is your moral compass? What is it? Is it Sacramento? What is it?
And let me just tell you, some of my closest friends are Catholic, and I love the Catholic Church. I love the Pope's stance on homeless issues and the different things that he's done. It's been incredible what he's done. I'll tell you this, that just, and it's coming tomorrow night before the board. Let me tell you what we did. Last year, we put together ShotSpotter, and it was spotty through the city. My partnership that I formed, that I went after Lee Brand, I went after the county, Housing Authority came to play. Do you realize that kids that are traveling through the main body of our city, and the kids are the ones that are really getting shot. Look at the news, who's getting shot. It's our kids. ShotSpotter will be able to, those kids can ride a bike through the middle of our town from east to west, from north to south, and be covered, including almost 70 schools. are covered by ShotSpotter because of the partnerships that the leadership that I brought to the table did. What has this guy done? You know what? I don't even want to talk about it no more. It's like the Fresno Bee. I don't.
Let's talk about what the meat of this issue is to me, and I think it might be to you, and many others are going to come out in support on Wednesday. Is parental rights.
Well, this is when you say what got me into hot water. First of all, I live in hot water and I like it, but I'll tell you this: that when they come on our campus, when the Fresno Bee comes on our campus with permission from somebody that shouldn't have ever given it,
and give the backstory, just quick backstory.
So they're doing a survey on teen pregnancy is what they called it. So somebody in our office, and because of HR reasons, I'm not going to mention who, gave permission, didn't go to the board, didn't go to the superintendent, and they come on our campus. Well, they start doing a sex survey with 14-year-olds. The Fresno Bee does a sex survey with 14-year-olds and asks them about homosexual sex, asks them about unprotected sex, asks them about protected sex. So as the board president and as a parent of a child that was in the room, I go nuclear. It's absolutely unacceptable. And I can't believe that this city isn't going berserk over Mackenzie Mays coming into our deal, coming into our schools, through Fresno Bee, and if I came to your house and I said, hey, why don't you go outside and grab a beer or whatever you're going to go grab, and I'd like to talk to your kids for a minute, and I start talking to them about the things that these people start talking to our kids about at our schools without getting your permission,
I'd probably call the police.
You call
the
police. I think they call that a predator.
I think that when I threw a pool party out back for 14-year-olds and the boys and girls were naked, a parent could call the police on me and I'd be arrested. But yet the LGBTQ directives in California instruct that we really don't have any local say over this, do we? That children can be naked around each other in the bathrooms, in the changing facilities, and all of this. That same behavior that's allowed when we put them on the yellow school bus would be a crime if it were committed in your backyard. You would be.
They had no business not asking parents and then bribing the kids $50 or pizza parties if they pass the survey on to their friends, but don't tell your parents because we don't want them skewing the survey. We don't want them going online and taking the survey. That's why they didn't publicly put it online. This is just wrong. So what do? They absolutely did a character assassination on me, 100%. And it's just ridiculous that people in this country don't have the ability to speak how they believe. I gave my personal belief on what I thought, and as a father, how I raised my children. My personal beliefs have never, ever trumped constitutional law. The constitutional law in California says we will teach sex ed curriculum as adopted by the state. I voted for it because it's the law. Bottom line, I voted for it.
You could have voted against it.
I could have voted against it, but it's the law. Then what good am I if I'm voting against it? I mean,
if it's already the law, why are you voting on it? If it's already
we had to vote to adopt it.
Right. I would have stood up. I would have stood up against it because I think voting no on it actually backs up what your personal views are. But that was a different time, different place.
I think that my personal views should not trump the law. That doesn't mean I'm not going to continue to fight against it and try to change it.
There it is.
But I'm going to honor and sustain the law, and I've done that every time. Even with me and you were sideways on safe schools, and me and Guillermo went back and forth on safe schools. I thought it was so important that children are not disrupted in the classroom, but not because of the 3 that maybe are going to be disrupted, but what about the 25 as well? I mean, there's 3 kids that are going to be seriously disrupted, but the 25 that are going to watch that are going to be disrupted. I didn't want that in schools. What I should have done is excluded the Fresno Bee from that list, that they couldn't come on our campus. But what they've done to our kids is wrong, and it's just wrong.
Fresno, let us tell you what is coming your way if tomorrow night this issue is forced upon parents where parental rights go away. A story up in Rockland, just outside of Sacramento. We'll tell you what your kindergarten class could be like here in Fresno. This just happened at the end of last school year, but it became before their school board meeting last night in Rockland, and it got heated up.
A lot of parents in school district, even board members, assume or make the assumption that this comprehensive reproductive education is going to encourage or condone early sexual behavior amongst our youth, and it actually is quite the opposite.
Quite the opposite, says the county sex educator. Mr. Brooke Ashjian says, no, it could push them in that direction. That's what we're talking about right here on the Trevor Carey Show. We'll take your calls at the bottom of the hour, 559-247-CALL. 6 o'clock. Downtown Fresno, 2309 Tulare Street. We're going to be doing the show live from 3 to 6. Down there, love to shake your hand, needs your support. Brooke, word on the street is they're bussing in some outside, I guess for a better lack of word, agitators, I've heard.
I haven't heard, and I'll be honest with you, that that's not going to go over well in Fresno. And look, I mean, they can bring all the people they want. It's just not going to be enough. Yeah. We're going to stand our ground, and that's just what we're going to do. Let me just tell you something that what people behind the scenes aren't seeing, and in the poorest county in the nation, with 90% poverty in Fresno Unified, almost half of our funds, about 40% of our funds, Trevor, 40% of our funds come in for supplemental funds for disadvantaged youth, meaning foster youth, poor kids, for English second language, just so we can try to float the entire ship, right? So this year, in the last 60, 90 days, and people don't understand this, and this is an important thing, I think, for our community to know. Did you know that at the Marjorie Mason Center, there's 65, 70 kids sitting there? There's 120 beds, approximately. 65 kids are there, and they mainly go to one school, and I'm not going to say the school that they go to. Do you know that Fresno Unified never had a point of connection for those kids? So imagine this. You're in a homeless shelter. Your mother's had the crap beat out of her. And
these are orphan children.
They're homeless orphan kids. Well, they're not orphan because the mother's there, right? They're hiding from the father 9 times out of 10.
Okay, so parent's
there, and they go to one school, and there's no connection between the domestic violence shelter and the school. So the principal doesn't know. No, I set up an absolute pipeline that you make one phone call now. Marjorie Mason Center makes one phone call. Trevor's here. He's coming in the first grade. He needs to be tested for an IEP, an individual education plan. He needs to see if he's got autism. We need to check him out, make sure he's all right. We need to watch him for tutors. Let me tell you what else. I personally put tutors and teachers in the Marjorie Mason Center. I did the same thing with Spirit of Women. We're doing the same thing with the rescue mission. We are grasping and putting our hands around the weakest, most downtrodden people, kids in our city, and raising them up. And this guy's got the guts to say, that's not leadership. Listen, he needs to stop consuming water and start carrying it. I've got board members on that board that work as hard as I do.
How are you guys? Do you think? How do you recover from something like this? He's calling for your resignation. I mean,
listen, this is a political game.
But how does the board work together after something like this? You're saying no. That was your press release back when the Human Rights Campaign said you must resign. You did a big press release with one word: no.
Not going to happen. So how do you work together? You know what you do? You vote him out. You vote him out. He's not done anything in 5 years. Clint Olivier wants to run for that seat. Put him in. Get rid of him, and let's make some progress. Let's just get it over with and get it done.
Now, there have been other school board members throughout the years. I guess people's views have changed over a decade, but when there was a trans homecoming court, many people were upset about that back in 2007, 8, around that time period. We're very vocal about that. I guess in today's world, that would get them in hot water.
Well, the person that was vocal about that, and I'll let you bring that up,
Miss Davis,
was the first one to get out to the press and talk to the LGBT committee about how she wants to be inclusive, but she didn't want the gay homecoming queen to be prom queen.
All right, Brooke Ashjian, I'm Drew with the Human Rights Committee. We think that you hate lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. What would you say to convince Drew that you don't?
Let me just tell you something. I'm a man of faith, and I believe in God. And I believe that God has created all of us as brothers and sisters and children of Him. And how could you possibly hate somebody else? Absolutely, positively, the farthest thing from the truth.
Well, let's speak about the truth for a minute. This is George Orwell, and I've used this quote. The further a society moves from truth, the more it will hate those who speak the truth. And what you brought up, and I have a recording, and I want to play this here, is we're talking about the suicide rate of transgender students.
Play my record on LGBTQ. Play it.
Personally, our kids I'm hearing that there is a tremendous amount of social, emotional issues that they're dealing with. The number one reason for suicide with our children is LGBT. And I don't know how we're addressing that. I don't know how we're getting to that group I'm going to say targeted youth, or the ones that are really that are spiking the spectrum. But we've got to do a really, really great job with that and our psychs. And if they don't want to do it, they need to tell us they want to do it and let them go to Clovis. We need psychs that want to do it. I believe that they want to do it, and I believe that we have some of the best in the system, but they've got to get their hands around this, because to lose one is too many. It's important to me.
And the National Academy of Pediatricians state that having these children change like that, altering their hormones, their bodies while they're changing, that it's child abuse. These are doctors saying it's child abuse.
I'm not gonna step into that and address that, because I'm not qualified to. All I can tell you is that no matter what kid shows up at our doors, whether they're the most vulnerable children at the Marjorie Mason Center, whether they're LGBTQ, whether they're from Northwest Fresno, Southeast, whether they're Hispanic, they're Hmong, they're African American, I don't care. We educate every kid that comes to our doors, regardless of where they came from, who they are. It doesn't matter. They're children, and children get educated at Fresno Unified. All of them.
But see, you're bringing the truth up that the suicide rate is so much more drastically higher for this segment of society.
So here's the deal with that. So we had one psychologist budgeted for this year. We were going to add one more. We were going to go from like 51 to 52. And I met with the psychologist and said, Brooke, we can't do it with one. We got to have more psychologists. I went to the interim superintendent and I went to our human resources and I said, we got to have 5. I need 5. They said, Brooke, we don't have it budgeted. I said, let me go to work on the board. Let me go to work on our board members that know this is important, and I'll get it done. And I talked to a couple of them, because I can only talk to a couple. I can't talk to all of them. Otherwise, I violate a Brown Act. This board passed 5 more psychologists specifically for social emotional efforts and things that happen in our society and at schools. We did it partially because of the LGBTQ. I mean, we need to make sure we wrap our hands around every child that walks through our doors, every one of them, and that's what we've done.
Do you back Brooke? If so, you're needed tomorrow. If you back, or if you got a issue that you would like to discuss right here, you can't say the man's not making himself available. 559-247-CALL. 559-247-CALL.
The Trevor Carey Show on Power Talk 96.7 and AM 1400.
At the end of the day, it's really about teaching our young people how to make healthy decisions, not just physically, but socially and emotionally, and giving them resources and tools to be able to make those decisions, but at the same time encouraging them to talk to their parents or a trusted adult.
That's a county sex educator saying, the parents. My in-studio guest, Fresno Unified School District Trustee Board President Brooke Ashjian. Big school board meeting tomorrow night, 6 p.m., downtown Fresno, 2309 to Larry Street. If you back Brooke, bring a sign down. This is a line in the sand. This is about Brooke. We really haven't nailed it real hard on this, but this is parental rights.
This is parental rights and parental consent. Nobody has the right to talk to your underage child about the things of the sexual nature unless you give them permission to.
Now, the story that just happened up in Rockland with the kindergarten class, where they brought out the boy, said, hi, he's a boy in front of the whole and then he went in the bathroom. They changed him into a girl, came back out and reintroduced him as a girl and said, you must call him a girl. Kindergartners went home crying to their parents going, can I turn into a boy? And little boys thought they could turn into girls. It confused their minds. And they're saying they didn't even have an opt-out of that experience.
So the school board sets board policies and bylaws. And I am part of the board bylaw committee. I'm going to bring it forward, and whether we vote on it, we are going to vote on it. Whether they pass it or not is going to be your individual board members. But if you're a parent and you're concerned about the school or other people coming onto campus talking to your kids about sexual content, you need to be at that meeting and tell the board members, we don't want this. We want you to notify us first, and then we'll give you permission. You don't have the right to talk to somebody else's kid about those things.
No.
Not now, not tomorrow, not never.
No.
Doesn't
and
work
so
that way.
you're saying if parents come out and get upset enough, they can put together a group, an organization that writes, a letter asking for a bylaw? Is that the procedure?
I'm going to bring it forth anyways, but they should come and speak before the board and tell them that they want it.
Okay.
Now, when they come down tomorrow, listen, if there's opposition groups, whether they're busting or not, listen, here's the deal. We need to be nice. We need to be graceful. We need to be peaceful. It needs to be a conversation. The yelling, the screaming, and all of that stuff doesn't
Forceful
work.
but peaceful.
Well, yeah, it doesn't.
Forceful but peaceful.
It doesn't work for me. We need to show, we need to show that we're maturity, and we have class. We cannot be like school in the summertime, no class. Right? we just can't. We just can't. We've got to show that this matters to us, and we're going to take it the right way, and we're going to vote it in.
So for my next ex-girlfriend, I'm going to use that line. You're like school, or what was the line? You're like school in the summertime. No class, and then walk away.
Right.
559-247-CALL. Let's go to Bakersfield. Tatum, you're on with Brooke Ashjian. Hi there.
Hi, I just want to say that Mr. Ashjian is making a really good difference. And he's right about what he's saying. He's taking a stand, and he supports, he's supporting the children. What's better than that? He's not so tactful sometimes, but come on.
Tatum, do you want your school board trustee members to live their morals, how they view life, their faith? Do you want them to be able to express that? Is that important to you?
Well, what do you mean? Of course that's important. It's a free country. Of course it is. However, there's got to be stipulations. Come on. You shouldn't be able to talk to someone's kid. You wouldn't want that if you were a parent, ever.
Oh, no.
Mr. Ashjian is completely right, and he comes from a long line of good people, It's like he's right. He's clearly right, and people want to go against him because they're so off track. And I'm not saying he's perfect, because he's not. It's just he's not so tactful. But he's right. There's right and wrong. There's no in between. Period.
Wow.
That's all you can say. Wow. Tatum, thanks for the
call. He comes from a really good family. If you look at his lineage, he comes from a really good family, and he makes a stand. It's like, you know what? No one has any, these days. They don't want to stand up.
Thank you, Tatum, for the call in Bakersfield there.
Thank you.
559-247-CALL. She's a teacher, Fresno Unified School District. Beth, welcome to the Trevor Carey Show. You're on with Brooke Ashjian.
Hello. Hey, how are you? Well, I've called before, and I'm actually a parent of kids that go to this schools in the district, and I'm also a teacher. And I've called before and said how there's a lot of teachers that don't want to be teaching any of this stuff, just like we don't really want to do the classroom meetings and the restorative justice stuff. But like me, I will not come because I will be red flagged by the union and also by the district if I were to come, especially where I teach in Southeast Fresno, even if I were to come for, just as a parent for my kids.
I got to tell you, I can't even imagine being a teacher, especially after you see what they're trying to do to me, and then all of a sudden, you stray off one side to the right or one side to the left. They're going to barbecue you. They're going to absolutely barbecue you. It's terrible. And so there has to be a way that we're teaching the biological portion of this, which is, where babies come from. No problem. No problem with that. Don't bring your philosophy into the classroom.
Mm-hmm. And here's my, as a teacher too, and I probably wouldn't even really know this unless I worked for the district, is my worry is that just like the classroom meetings and this social, what's it called, restorative justice, they don't do proper training. They throw a book at us that they got from some third-party company that they probably got sold on, that has some ideas in it, and they kind of just, maybe have a meeting after school or maybe conduct 3 hours of a whole day, off-campus meeting to it, but nobody really teaches it. And so then you have these, loosey-goosey teachers that teach it, do the weirdest stuff and are making kids come back into your room crying, and it just makes us teachers really uncomfortable.
Well,
so
even I agree with what you're saying, and here's what when I was talking to the psychologist at Fresno Unified about them coming on and doing this sex survey, they were appalled because they said, Brooke, I'm working with kids that this is going to absolutely trigger them. This you asking that question is going to give them PTSD, or it's going to trigger them for something that's happened in their life. They should not be doing this randomly without talking to psychologists.
Parental
and parents.
rights. That's
Parental
right.
rights. I mean, what happened to them?
Beth, let me ask you. What with the sex education and the LGBTQ, you said teachers don't even feel comfortable discussing it. What types of subject matter are you being forced to have to discuss?
Well, I've had it where I've had a girl on the playground because she liked to play a lot of sports being called a lesbian. And I was told by my admin to address that in my class meeting. So I had to talk about, and I don't care. I have no problem with it other than give me a script so that then if parents call or someone calls, I can go, well, here's what admin told me, because it's funny how admin doesn't want to back you up when parents start calling. It's so funny how the thing that they told you to do now turns into, I didn't tell her that. Well, yeah, because no one gave me a script. You gave me a book and I followed the idea about gender stereotypes in the book.
Beth,
anyways,
what grade are we talking here?
I'm between 4th and 6th.
Okay, so somebody called a kid called another kid a lesbian on the playground, and then you had to come in front of the whole classroom and explain what lesbianism is?
Yeah, I just had to say, hey, look, how I kind of approached was like, look, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. You can go home and talk to your parents about it, because honestly, as a teacher too, I feel that I don't want people talking to my kids at school about that. I feel that that's something that should be covered at home. The only thing I covered is like, hey, it's you can't discriminate against people for that.
Why would you have to talk? Well, but why would you?
Beth, I didn't want to have her come up and go, hey, are you a lesbian? I mean, I didn't do that to her. And I didn't mention the kid. I just talked about, hey, people can't be calling people names.
Well, why couldn't Beth? Let me ask you, Beth. Why couldn't you have just spoken to the two children that had the altercation on the playground? Why does it have to be brought in front of the whole classroom, or is that the new style of teaching?
I did, but that was something that, okay, here's another thing I wanted to point out. Like at my school, by law, we have to do these classroom meetings now. We have to do 30 minutes of PE a day, or we can do so many of those 30 minutes as a classroom meeting for social and psychological, emotional growth. And teachers, the admin every quarter has to turn in paperwork to the district or somebody, Department of Education, I don't know who it goes to, but our vice principal scrambles in the last 2 weeks of every quarter to send out to all of us in our boxes. And then, half of us teachers, we just take the book out and we go to the chapters and we just yep, this is, and because they want to know what you covered, what, the title of it, what it covered, and a couple of, and it's mandatory that you cover,
lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender.
Type stuff. Yeah, I had to in my BITSA. My BITSA teacher came back to me. One of my papers was on how I was how I was teaching to help kids with social or economic growth. So what I was writing about was my poor kids. I teach in the Southeast Resident. I'm like, yeah, okay. So I wrote about. She came back to me and goes, no, what they're looking for now is something with helping people do something sexual or sexuality, or is there a girl?
It sounds uncomfortable, Beth. It would sound uncomfortable to me to have those conversations above and beyond, I guess, the birds and the bees. But look, great insight, yeah. Beth. Always appreciate looking in there. Brooke, good luck tomorrow. Thank you for staying strong. We don't always agree, but you and I agree 100% on this. This is parental rights and your religious rights, in my opinion.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate being on the show, and we're not going nowhere.
I told him to pull out a bag of sand and drop it in front of the cameras, and then pull out his Moses staff and draw a line. Fresno Unified School Board meeting tomorrow night, 6 p.m. downtown Fresno, 2309 Tulare Street. Parents, you need to speak up. You want to have parental rights, correct? The state is coming in trying to be the parent in so many situations. This is an instance where you can make a difference. We need you down there. Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you, brother.
This is the Trevor Carey Show on Power Talk.